I am here with Tim Crumrin. He is one of our instructors in the Royal Fireworks online learning community. Hi, Tim.
Hi.
So we're just gonna get into a few questions about your courses and let parents know what their kids are getting into if they sign up for one of your classes. So let's start off by, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background in teaching, your expertise. How did you come to teach at Royal Fireworks?
Okay. I've been a professional historian for almost 40 years. I have degrees in modern American history and modern Europe. Over the years, I've taught college. I spent 25 years as the historian and director at Conner Prairie Museum, which is considered one of the 5 best museums in the nation. Won those awards while I was there. Over the years, my specialties have really evolved. Of course, when I was there at Conner Prairie, it's mainly 19th century and pioneer history. But I always kept my outside interest. So that's why I'm offering, I think, a couple of classes that are going to be a little out of the ordinary for students, something they won't normally get even in a college classroom.
So what are the courses that you offer in the coming semester?
Well, we're going to offer one called The History of Popular Culture in America. And I very much believe that learning is a community effort. So I'm going to expect the students to really interact, I hope. And I'm going to give them some what I think are some thought-provoking assignments. But what we're going to look at is how popular culture has reflected or not reflected history over the course of the United States. We'll start out looking at print media mainly until we get into the 20th century, when of course we'll start moving into radio, television, movies. Again, one of my emphases in this is, does the popular media feed into a myth that people already have? Does it feed into a sense of history that people have? Or does it indeed, in some cases, present a false history that becomes accepted as history? For instance, what most of us know about the Old West, you know, cowboys and Indians, that sort of thing, came from the dime novels of 1870s and beyond, you know, the stories of Wild Bill Hickok and the gunfighters and things like that. And that was picked up later in movies and media. So what most people think, if what they know about the Western history in America is from that, then they have a very false notion of what history was like. And then I want to move into more contemporary things. Again, we're going to have some fun. I'm going to introduce them to some television shows from my youth. I use episodes of Leave It to Beaver, Andy Griffith's Show, Mary Tyler Moore, and others to show how things changed, and was that reflecting America? The first major thing that we will look at and how a movie affected history of the United States in a most profound way is D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation. It is an admittedly racist film. The depictions of African Americans in that movie are that they're a little more than animals, ravening animals. And he also presents this very starry-eyed idea of the lost cause, the Old South. And one of the reasons I want to focus on that is that movie opened in Atlanta in 1915. It was seen by a man who revived the Ku Klux Klan. So you can say that the Klan revival, which was very strong in the United States, very strong, particularly here in Indiana, where I live, he was inspired by that movie. So all of the prejudice and the deaths and the riots actually kind of stem from that movie and how people took that. It presented a false history of what life was like in the South after the Civil War during the Reconstruction period. And again, we'll go into, we'll be looking at a lot of movies and things like this. I'll have a couple of readings for them, nothing too outlandish. Kind of the social political issues of what was going on. And again, I want to emphasize that this is going to be a fun learning process. And I'm very interested to learn from the students what they think. I'm interested in their opinion. I'm going to give them the facts, throw in a little of my sides about things, but I really wanted them to start to think and then apply that to the popular culture world we have today. I mean, social networks. We've seen how those have affected elections. We've seen how in some ways they've divided the nation, certainly now and what we're going through. So I want them to talk about that. I want them to tell me what they think and how they, how they get their sense of history, or how they get the sense of the place in the world. And then one of the final classes that we'll do is I'm going to have them look at 2 movies about the JFK assassination. One is the Oliver Stone JFK, which was the most atrociously historically inaccurate film that you'll ever see. But that's how millions of Americans now think of the JFK assassination. But then I'm going to have them look at a film called Parkland, which in my estimation is the finest rendering of what happened during the assassination and afterwards. Beautiful movie. I just rewatched it the other night. And I want them to compare and contrast, what were they saying in JFK and what was closer to the truth in Parkland. Okay, so I said, I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. It grew out of a class that I taught called Television of History at a local university a couple of years ago. The history and the literature of the Holocaust is something that's very important to me. When I was 15, I went to my local drugstore and I picked up a paperback book off the shelf called The Murderers Among Us. It was by Simon Wiesenthal, the great Nazi hunter, the man who's probably responsible for bringing more Nazi war criminals to justice than anyone. And that sparked an intense interest in the Holocaust in me. And I have been studying that and teaching that over the last 30-some years. It's going to be in some places grim. I mean, we're talking about a horrific, horrific event. But I also want us to look beyond that. And, okay, compare that to other, what you might call other Holocausts, genocide in 20th century world. So it's, it's not going to be an easy class to take, I think, in some ways. I will be showing a couple of films that are very honest about what happened. But my approach is also to talk about it from other points of view. I'm assigning 3 books, 2 memoirs, and a graphic novel called Mouse, which was very popular. It came out in the early 90s, I think. And we'll talk about that because, as I said in my introduction to the course, Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin said, the death of one person is a tragedy, the death of a million is a statistic. Well, in many ways, that's true. But we're going to try to get behind that because we're going to be looking at the lives of individuals. We won't just be looking at the whole apparatus. We will be looking at the whole apparatus of the Nazi death machine. But one of the books I've chosen is called An Interrupted Life. And most people read Anne Frank, which is wonderful. But this takes place at the same time. It's the memoir of a young woman. She was like 19 or 20. She was older. And how she was gradually drawn into it and eventually taken off the concentration camps. So again, I want them to understand that this is going to be honest. I'm not going to throw atrocities in their face. But if they want to understand certain elements of our history and certain elements of the world, they have to face certain harsh realities.
So who would you say these courses are best suited for in terms of age, learning style? Are there differences between the two? What would you suggest?
Well, I think that would be up to the student and the parents. I frankly think we're talking about minimum age junior high for the Holocaust. I know if you want your children exposed younger, that's fine. I will be sensitive to all that. The popular culture class, I think anyone who as an interest. This has been my first classes I've taught for Royal Fireworks. I really don't know the demographics of your students and what they're interested in. But in the end, what I want to say is, as I said before, learning is a community, is a group effort. And my approach to this in general will be like the tutoring system at English universities, Oxford and Cambridge, where there's the instructor, the Don, and he meets with small groups of students. He gives them readings and they sit and discuss what they read or they saw. So I'm hoping a lot of what we do is, especially as we ramp up and get to know each other a little bit, is, I'll start out by maybe giving a small lecture, talking about this, talking about that. And then I want them to talk with me and I want them to talk with each other.
And what do you anticipate the workload outside of the live classes looking like?
Well, as I said, for the Holocaust cost, I'll have 2 books. For the popular culture, I'll be providing some material, but I will ask them to look at some, for instance, I can't show JFK and I can't show Parkland, because they're too long. And those will be available, they're online and they're also available from local libraries. So I would ask them, the week before we're going to talk about each individual movie, that they will try to find those and watch those, take notes. A lot of the other stuff, I'll just, like the TV shows and stuff, I will just show those. I have tons of TV shows. As I said, I'm a child of the TV generation. I have a friend who is one of your instructors, and he's really enjoyed the experience. I have worked with gifted children in the past. I also volunteered at an autism center, and I've worked with children with Asperger's, so I have some experience of dealing with that. This will be the first time I've taught really below the college level. So I think it's really interesting, but my intent is not to dumb anything down. So let's stretch the brain.
Awesome. I'm sure they're all looking forward to signing up for your class, and we're very fortunate to have you on board. Where can parents reach you if they need to contact you before the semester starts?
They can just send me an email, and it's tcrumrin@yahoo.com. Yeah, feel free to contact me, and then if they want to have an in-person conversation, we'll exchange phone numbers and go from there.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out to do this little virtual open house with us, and
right.
Look forward to your semester starting.
I look forward to working with Royal Fireworks.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, Jordan.